ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Jason Marcus podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, and we have a very exciting one today because we are just nearly 24 hours away from the start of the 2025 NFL Draft, and it's always one of my favorite times of the year. I know it's always one of your favorite times of the year, too, for all us football fans who get to look and get to know at all of these hot NFL college prospects. We learn their names, we learn their stories, we learn way too much about them over the course of the last couple of months because that is all anybody can talk about on TV. But the day is almost here, night one of the NFL Draft. And for you guys, we are going to give our official mock draft where we predict where all these exciting players are going to go and shape the future of the NFL. Of course, I can't do this alone. That'd be a really boring podcast if it was just myself giving you a rundown of all 32 of my NFL picks. So I brought a buddy. We are here with me today. So joining me today is my good friend, Blaine King. Blaine, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you unmute yourself there real quick, my good buddy. Yeah, he's way ahead of you. This guy's a doctor. He's one of the smartest guys that I ever know. So, Blaine, happy to have you here. How you doing?
Jason, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. No, even if you did it by yourself, it would still be entertaining. So don't worry. Yeah.
How are you feeling about the NFL Draft? This one in particular, coming up in less than almost 24 hours.
So it's funny. Last week I was like, "Wow, the NFL Draft is next week." Like it kind of honestly snuck up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens, especially in the first 10 picks, because there's been a lot of movement now with quarterbacks dropping out of the first round.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be maybe 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10. Now it's only looking like potentially 1.
I think the Vegas over-under is at 2.5. So I think people are pretty confident about one of them at least going. Obviously, that being Cam Ward, who we'll talk about here in a minute. Shedeur Sanders is like the buzzword around town. That's all anyone can talk about. Some people have him falling out of the first. I think most people have him going somewhere in the first round, whether it's top 10, that is TBD. And then, of course, that third one, whether it be a Jackson Dart, a Jalen Miller, or a Tyler Shock, or whoever, that's kind of where the debate really comes in, is whether or not teams trade up into that last couple round or stick and pick and they go in the first. We're going to break it all down for you, but first we got to start at the very beginning. So I'm going to go first here with my pick. And Tennessee Titans are on the clock. They've made it clear that they're going to stick and pick. And I think it's no secret what they're doing here. With the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting quarterback Cam Ward out of Miami. I think there's a lot to be seen whether or not he ends up being the best quarterback from this draft, as we've mentioned a couple names already, but he's definitely the most pro-ready right now. And when you look at the Tennessee Titans, who have a relatively new head coach in Brian Callahan, the former offensive coordinator for the Bengals. He's definitely looking to get that side of the ball right. When you have the first overall pick, you need to make sure you use it on an impact player. That's exactly what Cam Ward is. They need the franchise quarterback. Will Levis showed them last year that he is not the guy. I don't know about you, Blaine. I'm actually interested to see what Will Levis's career looks like. Is he just going to stay in Tennessee and be the backup? Does he get traded once Cam Ward is essentially going to Tennessee? I'm not sure, but I do have a Tennessee Titans taking Cam Ward with the first overall pick. Your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, that's what my pick is going to be. Just there, a little teaser right there. But you're completely right. Tennessee needs a quarterback. Will Levis, I mean, he showed that he wasn't the guy, at least in Tennessee. With a new stadium coming as well, you need to be able to have someone to be able to attract the viewership, to attract fans to come to the stadium. So Cam Ward is the guy. He had a great season at Miami this year. It's going to be interesting because Tennessee needs a lot, especially on offense. I think they need a lot on offense, and it's weird how they've kind of fallen off when they fired Mike Vrabel. And I do think Callahan, he comes from the Cincinnati Bengals, so I believe that he's going to he's going to have a system ready for Cam to probably play week 1.
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's any doubt that he will be the week 1 starter. I think, like we already mentioned, Will Levis's future is very murky in Tennessee. I kind of expect him to not be on the 53-man roster come the start of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and go get a veteran quarterback in the meantime.
He might get traded tomorrow as well.
You never know. He literally could be in a package for like a 4th-round pick with some other players. So, but we are in agreement to start the 2025 NFL draft. Both Blaine and myself have the Tennessee Titans selecting Cam Ward. Now it's back to my pick. And with the 2nd overall pick, we had the Cleveland Browns on the clock. And now this is where this draft really starts to get interesting. For me, the Cleveland Browns can go in so many different directions, but I think there's only one player in this draft who is a generational talent. And for that reason, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Travis Hunter out of Colorado with the 2nd overall pick in the draft. Now, is he going to play corner? I don't know. Is he going to play wide receiver? I don't know. But either way, you pair him with Denzel Ward, you pair him with Jerry Jeudy. He's an immediate impact player. He's immediately going to draw tickets. My only concern, Blaine, is Deion Sanders, who has made it very public that he's looking like Travis Hunter, like his son Shador, and he's going to make sure that he goes to the right organization. Is he really going to allow Travis Hunter to go to the Cleveland Browns, one of the worst run organizations in sports?
I can't see Travis Hunter in Cleveland. It's kind of like they don't have that it factor.
Yeah.
When they had Baker, yeah, we saw that it factor and then when they were in the playoffs. But I just feel like, and I feel bad for not Kevin O'Connell,
Kevin Stefanski.
Kevin Stefanski, because I think he's a good coach. He's a very good coach, and this could potentially be his last year. But they're going into this season, no Deshaun Watson.
Mhm.
Most likely, they're going to probably start Kenny Pickett.
That's the big question. What are they doing? I guess they're starting Kenny Pickett for the season and hoping for the best. I really considered having them take Shador here.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Travis Hunter on the board, it's almost like take the generational talent and figure it out later.
Exactly. And try to just build up the team, build up the hype, and then you'll eventually find your quarterback. They could just be looking for next year for their quarterback. So it's just hard for me to see Travis Hunter in a Browns uniform.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think very much that's possible that Dean gets involved. This very well, there are reports now that the Browns and the Giants coming up are also looking to potentially trade down out of this pick. I personally wouldn't because of the next two people we're going to talk about. But I have Cleveland Browns taking Travis Hunter. Blaine, though, you have somebody different.
Yeah.
Who do you have the Cleveland Browns taking?
So I see Cleveland going defense. I think they're going to take Abdul Carter to pair with Myles Garrett. I think they want to shore up the defensive line because one thing that we've learned, especially over the past couple of years, is that, hey, the trenches win you championships. And so I believe that Cleveland goes with Abdul Carter to really shore up that defensive line, to make it a scary line where you're going to have an edge rusher where teams won't be able to just double cover Myles Garrett, and that you'll have to worry about that other guy on the other side of the ball. And Cleveland's defense has not been bad, especially under Jim Schwartz. But
yeah,
I just think that going the defensive line is kind of the safest bet. Not saying that not going with Travis is not safe, because that is completely safe as well. But I think this just bolster their line. They'll be able to take care of their defense, and then they'll be able to take care of their offense in the future, mainly next year.
Yeah. I mean, they do say it's a pretty deep quarterback class next year. So maybe that is what a lot of teams are thinking of, just take starters now and try and figure it out next year. But it's really a hard sell for me as a Browns fan to, yes, you'll take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, assuming it's going to be one of those two. And those are great players. But how do you go into this season with Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco in your quarterback room? That's really the big question everybody has. Like, that's just brutal. So I fully expect maybe Kirk Cousins could be in play later down the line, or maybe even an Aaron Rodgers. I don't see Aaron Rodgers really wanting to go to Cleveland, but if he's the only spot available, depending on what happens with Pittsburgh and New York, maybe that is what happens there. So who's to say? But either way, I have the Cleveland Browns taking Travis Hunter. Blaine has him taking Abdul Carter. We are now back to my pick with the New York Giants. And I have the New York Giants, shockingly, taking Abdul Carter. So either way, we agree that those will be the top 3 picks in this year's NFL draft. The order may vary. So this was such an interesting decision for me, just making this mock draft, because there's really this New York Giants pick, even more so than the Browns. Like the further you start to get in the top 10 is the more of like the range of possibilities are so much greater. So they already have Kayvon Thibodeau. They already have Brian Burns. So one of the big things people are always talking about is, do their Giants really need Abdul Carter? They have so many other needs. Their roster is abysmal. Do they really take Abdul Carter? I think you have to, because I think, one, he is one of the two, honestly, for sure, like really great players in this draft. And you can always figure it out later. Take one of the three of them, whoever's the best, keep them, flip the other two or whatever, what have you, and figure it out later. This is what I think they will do. But before I move on, I just want to share what I think what they could do and what they should do and what I would do. I think if you're Joe Schoen, and I think if you're Brian Daboll, you know this is your last year. You need to win or you're both getting fired. And right now, with a quarterback room consisting of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, I don't know, much like the Browns fans, I don't know how any New York Giants fan can go into the season feeling good about their odds for Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll to not get fired. How can they feel good about this season? So if I were the Giants, I think they will take Abdul Carter. I would take Shedeur Sanders, because win, lose, maybe he's the worst player ever. At least it buys you a couple more years to be like, we're going to develop this guy. You're tying yourself to a rookie quarterback who will give you at least a couple year or two. That is what I would do. Here's another interesting idea I had. What was the biggest topic of the Giants offseason, or of the Giants season last year, Blaine? Do you know?
The biggest topic was, one had to be letting Saquon Barkley go.
Exactly. And you know how you could fix that? By taking Ashton Jeanty third overall. I actually don't hate the move, especially if you're not sold on Shedeur Sanders and maybe you're thinking about trying to get up and get Jackson Dart late. Taking Ashton Jeanty third overall, filling that hole, giving whoever's your quarterback another weapon to play with for years to come, and then figuring out the quarterback later feels like, to me, the move that I would make. I have never heard anybody say that that's a possibility, though. And for that reason, I think they're going to stick and pick Abdul Carter. But I think taking Ashton Jeanty third overall isn't the worst idea ever. What do you think?
No, it's not. Because, and I was thinking, when I was coming up with mine, I was like, who could they take? And then, like you mentioned, they need a lot. Their defense is okay. Their defense is not bad. It's okay. For the division now, you're going to need a lot on that defense, because you're dealing with Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with Jaden Daniels. You're dealing with the Cowboys. I mean, there's a whole lot that the team needs, and they need excitement.
Yeah.
You need excitement. So taking somebody on offense, if it's Gentry or if it is Sanders, you're going to bring a lot of buzz.
Yes.
But like you said, Abdul Carter, in your case, it makes the most sense. And I mean, I kind of went the same direction with them taking another like linebacker edge type of player with Jalen Walker. I just think, again, it goes back to I'm looking at the team and where they struggled and where the pressure is going to come from. And yes, it's going to come from your offense, but you're going to have to stop teams. If you can stop teams from scoring, especially in the division, just mentioned Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott. That's three quarterbacks right there. You need to bring pressure. You have to find a way to stop them. And yes, this is probably Daboll's last season. I do think the Giants eventually do take a quarterback. They might trade up later on. But even going off of kind of what you just said, what they should do, I might think about trading down.
Yeah.
I might call the Raiders, because then there's talks the Raiders really want Gentry. So I'll call them and say, hey, what do you want? And I'll probably call even the Jets.
They need a lot, so I can see it.
If they want somebody, if they want a particular offensive lineman or defensive lineman, I'll call the Jets as well. There's a lot the Giants could do, and maybe trading back might be the best thing that they could do, where they can gain picks so that they could try to trade up even more, because they still got an early second-round pick. So if there's a team that, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, if there's a team that they might want to trade up to get back in the latter round of the first round, then that might be their best bet. Get a lot of picks so that you can use that as ammunition to move up. But I say they're going to go Jalen Walker edge, just so that they can bolster their defensive line so they can get back to their New York Football Giant ways.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
that's what won their Super Bowls.
Interesting that you have Jalen Walker in your draft going before Travis Hunter. Do you think that's a scheme thing? Do you think you like him more? What are your thoughts of him versus Travis Hunter?
I think it's a scheme thing. The Giants, yes, they need help everywhere on offense, but I think Travis wants to play both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, New York is a great market for him, but I don't think on defense. I mean, they're going to put him in the slot, but it might crowd up that secondary. Offense, they definitely could use him.
Yeah.
They definitely can use him on offense. But I think that just going with edge rusher, they might look at it as scheme wise, this is a safer bet. Again, with the trenches, we have a lot to deal with. We got to see Saquon Barkley 2 times a year.
Right.
So,
Makes sense. Well, Blaine has Jalen Walker going to the New York Giants, which brings us to 4th overall to the New England Patriots, a pick that some people think could easily be traded out of. Again, one of the fun things about this draft is, like, unlike other years, there is really, like, the first 3 picks we're sure of probably the people, but not the order. Even you yourself don't have Travis Hunter going in your top 3. So there's a lot of range of possibilities here. It's definitely not as locked in as years past, which makes our jobs more difficult, but it makes the viewing experience a lot more fun. But now we find ourselves on the 4th overall pick with the New England Patriots on the clock. And even though I just said a lot of this seems to be pretty unpredictable, this one seems to be really, like, tied to each other. The New England Patriots are moving forward with Drake May as their starting quarterback. We saw some pretty cool things from him last year. They're expecting him to take a big step forward in year 2. So the best thing you can do for a quarterback is get their franchise left tackle to protect him. And for those reasons, I had the New England Patriots taking Will Campbell, the left offensive tackle out of LSU. Hey, Drake May needs some protection. That offensive line's been terrible. Mike Vrabel's the new head coach in town. He's going to want to build from the trenches out. So I have Will Campbell as our 4th overall pick in this year's draft.
Yeah. Because I have Travis Hunter dropping.
Yes.
Where I have him going to New England, which I think is which is a perfect situation. But they need offensive linemen. Drake May was running for his life at times. And you have to protect your franchise.
Yep.
Offensive line is the biggest, minus the quarterback. Offensive line is one of the biggest positions needs, and you need the depth because you just don't know offensive lineman can get hurt. You just need the depth but you need the protection. You got to have that left tackle to protect your quarterback blind side. This is where I actually think that will happen if Travis Hunter does go in the top 3. But I think the perfect position right now is Travis Hunter going to New England. Mike Vrabel, it just brings a lot of excitement because now Drake May has another weapon, and then Vrabel is going to be able to use him on defense. He can line him up in the slot. He might be able to line him up outside. It will bring excitement to New England, and it could help them. I mean, going into this year, New England could be that team that, they start getting back to their, I'm not going to say old Patriot ways, but they start getting back to winning how we're used to seeing them win. They can probably get to 7-8 wins, no matter who they take here.
Yeah.
But I believe Hunter with him on the board, I feel like they'll run up to the stage, hand a card to Goodell and say, we want him. They'll give him the jersey. It will be the perfect situation for Hunter as well, because I believe that he is in New England. He'll be highlighted a lot. It will be him and Drake May. It will be those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And
you go from a wide receiver room that had absolutely nobody to a wide receiver room that's Travis Hunter and Stephon Diggs.
Exactly.
Pretty good.
Exactly. So I think Travis Hunter in this situation is great, but then again, if he's gone, I think it is going to be Will Campbell.
I'll tell you who would love this move, the league, Roger Goodell, because for the last 5 years or so, the New England Patriots have been irrelevant, something that they are not been used to in the beginning of the millennium. So you finally get another star player on that roster for that franchise. I think Dion would be happy. Robert Kraft would be happy. Roger Goodell would be happy. I think it's a win-win for the league if Travis Hunter can find his way to New England.
And Travis also gets now another coach that played in the league that's won championship. So you're going from one coach that you've had that relationship to, and I believe it definitely will transfer over to Vrabel as well.
And I think Vrabel and Dion have similar coaching styles. So I
Yes.
think the way that he was coached in Colorado will probably translate well to the NFL under Mike Vrabel. So I personally love the pick of Travis Hunter going to New England. I just don't think he's going to be there at 4.
Yeah.
All right. So Travis Hunter going to New England, according to Blaine, which brings us back to me. 5th overall, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they might be the most unpredictable pick so far. Because whether or not we think the Giants and the Browns and the Patriots are going to trade out of their picks or stick and pick, if they stick and pick, we kind of know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to do. They could go offense. They could go defense. There's a lot of really good names still left on the board. But for my money, the one thing I think about is you need flash. You need new head coach Liam Cohen is going to go offensive side of the ball. I don't think he's going to be taking Mason Graham, even though he's probably the best defensive player left. But we saw last year that Brian Thomas Jr. really emerged as a star in this league, and he's not going to be able to do it alone. You need to get Trevor Lawrence more weapons. And so for that reason, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Ted McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. Now, there is a lot of people who are not fans of Ted. There are people who are really big fans of Ted. I think he's going to fall somewhere in the middle, but I think the high risk, high reward kind of plays into the hand of the Jacksonville Jaguars strategy over the years. He's a big guy. He's like 6'4", so they need like a big body wide receiver because Brian Thomas is more of like a slot guy. I think they would complement each other well. So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Ted McMillan with the 5th overall pick.
That's interesting because I've seen Ted is dropping.
Yes.
In the first round. He'll still be taken in the first round, but he's dropping, and I even have him dropping pretty far, significantly far. But you're right. I mean, Jacksonville does need flash.
Mm-hmm.
The team was in the AFC divisional round a couple of years ago against the Patriots, not the Patriots, the Chiefs. They knocked out Patrick Mahomes, and then all of a sudden we saw who's the quarterback? I want to say Matt Moore, but it wasn't Matt Moore. It was
Chad Henne.
Was it Chad Henne? Chad Henne, I believe. Take them on a 99-yard drive. I looked it up, but
yeah,
Jacksonville was they were a few plays away from potentially getting to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
which is crazy. But you're right. They do need some type of infusion of excitement. I do think they'll go offensive on the offensive side, but I think it's more to protect their franchise, or at least for right now, protect their franchise because they could be looking elsewhere. I have them taking here Will Campbell.
Yes.
This is where I have them going offensive line just to shore up that line for Trevor Lawrence. He needs protection. You can't go wrong. It has to be offense no matter what. But
correct.
It's just the safest bet because even if you do move on from Trevor Lawrence, at least you know, okay, I have my line stable. So when I bring in the next quarterback, he'll be ready to go. Brian Thomas had a great season. It's interesting that they're another team that could trade up back into the first round just because they have a 37 just because they have the in the
lot of pick.
Yeah. So they'll have the ammo to move up potentially with another team in that late first round. I mean, the late first round is going to be very interesting when we get.
It's going to be chaotic. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think a lot of those teams could trade back. I think the Eagles are potentially one that's going to trade back. So Jacksonville could trade back up to get a receiver, but right now I think they want to just try to shore that offensive line.
Yeah, for sure. And if Will Campbell's still on the board again, a guy like that, you got to take that. I think the other name being attached to Jacksonville potentially at 5 is a guy we've already mentioned, a running back, Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. The only reason that I didn't take him or put him at a 5 is because I think maybe this is too logical for the Jaguars. But you already have Travis Etienne. Yeah. Granted, Ashton Jeanty is already better than him. but are you going to really take a first-round pick on one of the holes that you already have kind of filled more or less? Tank Bigsby showed a lot of promise last year too, so that is why I decided to go with the wide receiver over the running back. But that brings us to our 6th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders, who, of course, we do have taking Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. Blaine and I both have the Raiders taking Ashton Jeanty here. So, listen, Pete Carroll, new guy in town. What was he known for? Other than the Legion of Boom, he'll grow the defense. He had Marshawn Lynch. He had a strong running game. And with Geno Smith at the quarterback position right now, if you're not going to take Shador, which I think at this point is either very possible that the Raiders take him or somebody trades up the jumps ahead of them to take him. Who knows what's going on with Shador? I think it's possible they do that. But if you're going to trust in Geno, you got to give him something to play with. I think Ashton Jeanty is a Cadillac out of the backfield. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially for a franchise who historically loved speed and flash and just excitement. This pick makes all the sense in the world for me. Obviously, you agree as well.
I agree because they need flash. You can't have that gorgeous stadium and not really have flash. Now, I do think Pete Carroll's going to bring it. I believe Geno is going to play well, but you need somebody on that offense to really just create that noise that the team needs. It was an interesting time when they had Antonio Pierce as their coach. I thought that he was going to do well. I thought he was going to stick around, but they would decide to go another direction with a veteran head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame him. Brock Bowers. Last year we saw him have a great season. So maybe they can try to replicate that with Gentry here, so that you have the tight end, you have the running back. Hopefully this will be the turnaround. I know Jacoby Myers was good for them. I wouldn't be shocked also if they decided to go receiver at some point. Like this could be a spot where we see Tate McMillan go.
Yeah,
I actually could see that happening, but I do think Gentry's their person. Their running game wasn't too bad, but I just don't think Mostert's going to be their lead back.
Yeah, that's the problem right now. Their running back room is abysmal. Like you said, Raheem Mostert is the top of their depth chart right now, who 2 years ago actually led the league in touchdowns, but last year played second fiddle to Devon Achane in Miami and has really did nothing. So we'll see if he still has some gas left in the tank, but I fully expect them to bring somebody in, whether it's Gentry or another running back later in the draft. I would not expect Raheem Mostert to be RB1 for the Raiders come opening season.
Yes.
So like you said, there's a lot of different directions they could go, but right now we have Ashton Jeanty going to the Las Vegas Raiders. All right. So 7th overall, we have the New York Jets on the clock, and nobody can ever really predict the New York Jets in any capacity, but we're going to do our best here. Justin Fields is their new quarterback. They said goodbye to Aaron Rodgers, and here comes Justin Fields. Garrett Wilson just signed an extension. Breece Hall is still in the backfield. So they have players on both offensive and defensive side of the ball, but I think you need a special playmaker. And some people are going to have them taking an offensive lineman here, and I fully get that. But for me, I think you take a guy who is going to be Justin Fields' best friend, and with the 7th overall pick, I have the New York Jets selecting Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. I'm a Penn State guy. I loved watching Tyler Warren this year. He was the entire Penn State offense. They had a historically bad wide receiver room in State College, and Tyler Warren literally got them to the Final Four. So he is incredible. He's a can't-miss prospect. There's potential he could go even earlier, but I think Tyler Warren to the Jets makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you got to get Justin Fields a third down guy, someone Mr. Reliable,
Yeah, Justin needs as much help as he can on off. And that's not saying that Justin has bad skill sets, because I think Justin can be a good quarterback. But the more help, the better. Just for any quarterback. Warren going here is most likely going to happen. I think so too. I know I went a different direction, because I think that they will go more defensively with Aaron Glenn. He wants to. I mean, in Detroit, their defense was it. They had a good defense, and then they just started falling off because of injuries. And so I think that sticks with Aaron Glenn, and they decide to take Mason Graham, defensive tackle. You mentioned just a couple minutes ago how he's the best remaining defensive player on the field. I mean, on the still available right now. And I think this is where they pull that trigger, put them on the defensive line where they know that, hey, if we're going to struggle offensively, we're just going to dink and dunk downfield, run the football, but we're going to have a stout defense where we're going to hold teams to under 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
In that division, you have to deal with the Dolphins, you have to deal with the Bills, and you have to deal with the Patriots. Josh Allen, Drake May, and Tua.
Yeah.
You got to be if you want to slow them down, the best bet might be just go defense, just so that like this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna instill our team. We want to instill fear at least into our division so we can make it competitive. So I think they'll go Mason Graham here.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with Aaron Glenn as the new head coach. He's a defensive guy. And I think you can make the argument that Mason Graham is the last remaining, for sure, lock in, really good player in the NFL, like a low risk player. I think everybody else, you don't know what you're getting. But I think if Mason Graham is still on the board at 7, I could definitely see the new defensive head coach getting the best defensive player on the board left. But I think for me, the focus needs to be on helping Justin Fields first, because I have full confidence that Aaron Glenn will get the defense right. I think the Jets have proven that they are decent at finding rookies in the draft on defense, but they've struggled on offense. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think they would rather go Tyler Warren, but absolutely, if Tyler Warren's not there or if Mason Graham is, I could see this going either way. So I agree with your pick. That brings us to number 8. Carolina Panthers are on the clock. Carolina Panthers took a step up last year, and they looked decent. Not enough to obviously win their division, but they were competitive down the stretch. They had some close games against the Chiefs and the Eagles. They played hard. I don't think any team played harder than the Carolina Panthers last year. Mm-hmm. And so for that reason on my board, I still have Mason Graham available, which is why I have the Carolina Panthers taking Mason Graham. We just talked about him with the Jets. Incredible defensive lineman. I think a lot of people would project the Panthers to potentially go offense here, to either give Bryce Young a weapon or, in Blaine, your case, some more protection. So we already talked about Mason Graham, but Blaine, tell me about your pick of the Panthers taking Armand Membou, the offensive tackle.
Yeah, I have them taking Armand because again, the trenches, and I just think about last year with Bryce Young. He took a step up. He was benched. He started the season benched, and then he came back, and it seemed like he was back to how he was at Alabama. Yes, they have their offensive line is solidified, but I think this right now is just a way to really just solidify it. Even if you're going to use Armand in certain situations, or if you want to swing him over to a certain side, or if you just want to just plug him in right away, I think right now is the time just to be protective.
Yeah.
Just because, and also with Mason Graham being off the board, I think they just want to go with a more safer option. I think they don't want to go with a wide receiver right now. This could be a situation where they trade it back too. Just so that they can get more picks and they could develop and maybe try to finagle a trade for later on. So this could be a situation where they trade back. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded back, but I think they just go Armand right here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're not going to get Bryce Young another weapon, you do everything you can to improve the offensive line now. It's an age-old philosophy in football, building from the trenches out. So I think this pick makes a lot of sense too. I have no issues with it. I have, let's say the Panthers taking Mason Graham. So again, it comes down to who they have higher on their board. I think you're just going to take best player available at this point. After the Carolina Panthers, we come to the New Orleans Saints, and I want to switch this up a little bit, Blaine. I want to go to your pick first because this is a spot that a lot of people have either getting traded out of or some potentially a flashier pick. But you have the New Orleans Saints taking Jahad Campbell, the edge rusher. Talk to me about your decision to have the Saints play it safe and go defense.
Playing it safe, going defense. The NFC South is not the strongest of divisions in the league. So I think with the mindset that that Kellen Moore has going into the season, I think he wants to really make sure that his defense is set.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he just come from? Where the defense honestly was great week in and week out.
Correct.
And so I think he wants to just shore up that defensive line, create pressure, because you're going up against Bryce Young, you're going up against Baker, and then you're going up against Michael Penix. They're still minus Baker. The other two are still young guys. So if you can have a defensive line that could really get after them, especially because they are pretty mobile quarterbacks. Penix not as mobile as the other two, but if you can contain them, you'll be able to create havoc and create turnovers where your offense now can go and score some points. Mm-hmm. There's going to be questions about what New Orleans do because they don't have really a solidified quarterback. Yes, they still got Derek Carr, but is he going to be ready in time for the season? We don't know. So I think that this is a situation where you want to just shore up your defensive line. And this could be another situation where they're looking for next year for potentially a quarterback or trade up later on or take one in the second.
For sure. And one of the things that I actually just thought about when you were talking about Jahad Campbell going here is this idea that a lot of teams, much like the New Orleans Saints, might be playing for next year and not ready to put all their chips in on one quarterback in this year's class. Because I think, frankly, the Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think if you told me that they were the first overall pick next year, that would not shock me. And if they are the first pick in the 2026 NFL draft, how fitting would it be, Blaine, if the grandson of Arch Manning, went back to New Orleans and became the first overall pick for the New Orleans Saints? Talk about storybook. That is certainly something that I think the NFL would love. I know the Manning family would love. Is that what the New Orleans Saints are thinking? I'm not sure, but it would certainly be a very fun story.
It would be. It really would be. That I didn't even think about that. Comes full circle around.
But with that being said, I don't think the New Orleans Saints are going to be waiting for Arch Manning because I think the New Orleans Saints are pulling the trigger at 9 and they're taking Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. I know. There's been so much talk about where's Shedeur going? Is he a top 3 pick? Is he a top 10 pick? Is he even a first round pick? The Saints aren't going to take him at 9. He's going to fall to 21 and go to the Steelers. Let's cut it out, guys. Derek Carr is not playing this season. If he was, he would have told you that months ago. He told you, hey, by the way, my shoulders hurt, so I'm not going to get beat up and play for you bums. Find somebody else to do it. They already have Spencer Rattler on the roster. We saw a little bit of action for him last year. But I think if he was the guy, we would not still be having conversations about Derek Carr and whether or not he was going to play. Derek Carr would have been traded, he would have been cut, and they would have been going all in on Spencer Rattler right now. That is not the case. And the New Orleans Saints need a quarterback desperately. They need some juice in that stadium. The Saints are a historically well-run organization under Drew Brees. I think this makes a lot of sense for them to not pass up on Shedeur Sanders. I think Dion would be over the moon. Kellen Moore, new head coach, offensive guy, gets his franchise quarterback that he ties himself to. It's a lot of toys. You still got Chris Olave. You still got Alvin Kamara there. There's a lot you can do. I think the fans would be excited by this. I do not believe the hype that Shedeur Sanders is going to fall all the way to the end of the first round out of it. I think Shedeur Sanders is a top 10 pick in this year's draft, and specifically top 9. I think the Saints aren't moving, and they're sticking, they're picking, and they're taking Dion's kid. What do you think?
I mean, you have him in black and gold.
There you go. Easy transition.
Yeah. You have him in black and gold. And the Saints were one of the teams that Dion did say he wouldn't mind seeing his son playing for. Indoor stadium, fast track. I definitely think New Orleans is one of the teams to keep an eye out that could go for Shedeur. There's 4 teams, honestly. The Giants, the Raiders, the Saints, and then the next team that I have, where we both have Shedeur going in the top 10.
Correct.
Both of them have going in the top 10, but I think this is where I shake up things a lot.
Before we get to Blaine's pick here real quick, I just want to Uh, Highlights. So for my 10th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears staying where they are and taking Armand Membu, the offensive tackle out of Missouri. We already kind of talked about him a lot. He's probably a top 2 tight end, offensive lineman prospect in this draft. Chicago Bears have done a lot of work in this offseason rebuilding the offensive line. And what better way to cap it off than to get that final piece of the franchise left tackle and Armand Membu in the draft. So I think if he's there, a lot of people have Tyler Warren going here to give Caleb Williams another weapon to play with. I think they stay the course, they continue to build the trenches, and I have the Chicago Bears sticking at 10 and taking Armand Membu. But with that being said, it is now Blaine's pick. And Blaine, you are absolutely shaking up the draft here a little bit because for the first time, we have a projected trade alert. Because
Major
Blaine, you do not have the Chicago Bears staying. Instead, what do you have?
I believe the Bears will receive a first-round pick for this, third-round pick, and next year's first-round pick.
Okay.
I think the Pittsburgh Steelers trade up with the Chicago Bears to select Shedeur Sanders.
All righty. Blaine, why? This is the most interesting to me. I want you to explain your pick, but also in your explanation, why trade after the Saints? Because I think a lot of people are concerned that the Saints could take him. So explain your reasoning for why you think the Steelers would jump up to 10 and not try and cut ahead of New Orleans.
Well, this is where the situation with Carolina, where I can see them trading down. This was the team that I think that Carolina could also potentially trade down with. Again, going to your theory about next year's draft, the Saints could be not looking for a quarterback this year, or they could be looking for another quarterback later on. I think once Shedeur gets past the Saints, I think this is where the Steelers will, just jump up. I think they'll just take the chance here because there's a potential of, I'm not saying he will, but Dallas could take him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they might get a little scared of that. There could be another team. I mean, from here on out, usually most of the teams have their quarterback set. I mean, Seattle maybe, but I highly doubt it. This is where I have Pittsburgh jumping up and making sure they get their guy. I believe they'll jump up either to number 8 or number 10 to jump in front of the Saints, or once the Saints take their pick, they'll jump up so nobody else can get them.
Yeah.
I think this is just an opportunity. We don't know about Aaron Rodgers, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russ played well for them last year, and so did Justin Fields, but it just wasn't enough, and they need some infusion of youth on the quarterback side. They've been since Big Ben left, they've been trying to find the person. Kenny wasn't the guy. Mason Rudolph wasn't the guy. So this is where I believe they'll bring some excitement back to the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be interesting to see how Arthur Smith incorporates his offensive philosophy, because I think the Steelers might need to have to fire him after this year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I think they'll go for their quarterback. You already have your receivers. You have DK. You have Pickens. You have Harris left. So you have Jalen Warren in your backfield. So you try to really make your offense fast now.
Yeah. I love this pick. I think the Shedeur and the Steelers is a great fit. Again, one of those things where I think Dion would be happy, Shedeur would be happy, the league would be happy to have Shedeur in black and gold, repping one of their biggest brands. I feel like it just might be a little too late, depending. I mean, listen, if he gets past New Orleans, he might just fall them straight to 21, which would be great for them. So I agree. I would not be shocked if Pittsburgh is aggressive and trades up to get him. And I think that would be great for the league. So I love this idea. And frankly, if I could pick him to go to any team, I think it might be the Steelers. So I think that would be the best culture fit for him, to be with Mike Tomlin, somebody who understands him. I have a hard time envisioning, like, for example, I have him going to New Orleans. Could Kellen Moore get the most of him? For sure. But I feel like Mike Tomlin and him could make magic together.
Yeah.
All right, so that is our big headline for the draft, our top 10. Rounding it out, Blaine has the Steelers trading up to select Shedeur Sanders with the 10th overall pick. And now we move outside the top 10, back to me, with the San Francisco 49ers on the clock. 49ers fell apart at the end of last year. They still need a lot of help. Just 2 years removed from, or was it 2 years removed from getting to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
They could go offensive lineman here, but I'm going to go with them taking one of the best defensive players in the draft. I have them taking Jalen Walker from Georgia. They lost a couple linebackers in free agency. They are known for their defensive culture. I think this makes a lot of sense for John Lynch and company to take the best player on the board. And I think Jalen Walker to San Francisco makes sense.
Yeah, San Fran has to go defense.
Yeah.
They could go offense, but I don't think this is the time where they would go offense because I think Kyle Shanahan has an offensive philosophy where you don't really need talent. That's an issue come the Super Bowl, but during the regular season, you don't need talent. I think they look at their defense as their bread and butter, as what gets them to the playoffs, what wins them playoff games, because we've seen them have very low scoring playoff games. Their defense has not been the reason why they lost Super Bowls. I mean, they got they allowed Patrick Mahomes to drive downfield on them 2 times, but their defense really wasn't the reason why
Mahomes.
they really struggled. I mean, we saw them hold the Packers to 7 points in a playoff game at Lambeau. We saw them, I mean, against the Eagles last year. We saw them really slow them down and really kind of cause them to collapse. I mean, 2 years ago. So I think they do go defense, but I think they go cornerback this time. Barron.
So Blaine has the 49ers taking Jahdae Barron here. So we're both in agreement they're going to go defense here, just on which, I have them going pass rusher. Blaine has them going defensive back.
That's secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally could see this here too. Now we have the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. Back to me here. And Dallas, man, what's to say about Dallas? Again, a team that very well could be in play for Arch Manning next year. One of the worst rosters in football. But Jerry Jones loves to make a big splash. I think he is going to go offense. We are both in agreement they're going to go offense. I think they're a wide receiver. Spoiler alert, we're both going wide receiver, but we're going different names. Because with my pick, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, or Emeka Egbuka. From what I understand about this guy is he is very just like Mr. Reliable. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the X, whatever you want to say, but he is Mr. Consistency. He's going to give you, 100 catches, a classic third down wide receiver. So for that reason, maybe the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones do go with a bigger, flashier player. But I think when you're pairing somebody outside of CeeDee Lamb, I think CeeDee Lamb is your over-the-top big play guy. You need somebody who's just reliable on third down, which is why I had them taking Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Now, you were on a very similar brain path because while I had the Cowboys taking this guy, Blaine, you had him taking another wide receiver in Matthew Golden from Texas. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I have him going Matthew Golden. I believe, again, Jerry, like you said, Jerry wants flash. I think they want somebody with speed. I think they want somebody that they could line opposite of CD or on the same side as CD and just say, go, and cause teams to have to have a cornerback and then maybe have a safety up top just so that one of them can't blow. If one of them does blow past them, that there's help right there. So I think they just go Matthew Golden, Texas, right there from Texas, right there in the state of Texas. So it'll be very, very easy for Jerry and the Cowboys to go this direction. We both have them going receiver, so it's just who they want.
Yeah, they're definitely going offense. That wide receiver room is pretty bare outside of CeeDee Lamb. So I think this is definitely going to be someone on the offensive side of the ball. Again, will the Cowboys be aggressive? Last year Jerry Jones said he was going to go all in, and that didn't happen. I would personally, even though I'm an Eagles fan, from an NFL product standpoint, how fun would it be if the Cowboys traded up and got Ashton Jeanty?
It wouldn't shock me. It would be, I think the league will talk about it. Like,
yeah,
is this where the Cowboys really want to go? Because there are other running backs that they could get. based off of what Zeke did for them for a couple of years, we saw DeMarco Murray do it for them for a couple of years. Tony Pollard. I it wouldn't shock me, but I don't think that Jerry wants to put all his money into a running back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He would have paid Derrick Henry if that was the case, right?
exactly.
So, very fair point. But I mean, listen, having one of the biggest stars with one of the biggest brands is always something the NFL is looking for. But so we both have the Dallas Cowboys going wide receivers. It's now back to my pick with the Miami Dolphins on the clock. Now, the Miami Dolphins are kind of a middle of the road team, as you know, based on their 13th overall selection here. But one of the big stories of this offseason has been they are being very vocal about wanting to shop cornerback Jalen Ramsey. He looks to be on the move again for what, his fourth or fifth team. And so I think they will immediately address that with their first round selection. I don't know if you know this, but Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross is one of the largest donors to the University of Michigan. And with that being said, I think they do Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan, going to Miami here, kind of replacing Jalen Ramsey, get him off the books, and see where they go from there. What do you think?
Yeah, they need secondary help. They're trying to unload Jalen Ramsey, which I think will happen tomorrow night. But they definitely need secondary help, especially if you're going to have to be dealing with. I mean, you have to deal with Buffalo. You have to deal with potentially New England and potentially New York. But just overall, just looking at the landscape of the AFC, you need somebody to shut down some wide receivers, and you can put up all the points you can. But if you don't stop teams, they can just put up just as much as you. So yeah, this is a smart. I have them going to cornerback later on, but we're in agreement of what position they're going after. It's just who.
Yeah.
But I have another major.
Yes, because at the 13th overall pick, Blaine does not have the Miami Dolphins sticking and picking. He's got another trade.
I got the Chargers trading up. Trading their first and third, potentially, maybe a third round next year or a second round next year. And they see their Hall of Fame tight end, Antonio Gates, go to the Hall of Fame now this year. And they draft their next Hall of Fame tight end in Tyler Warren.
Love it.
We have to think about it. The Chargers have a history of actually drafting Hall of Fame tight ends. They had Kellen Winslow, they had Antonio Gates, and now potentially it's going to be Tyler Warren. I think this is where we stop. I think there's going to be a lot of talk of people trading up, trying to get Tyler Warren between San Francisco, Dallas, potentially Chicago if he slides past the Jets, or actually if he slides past the Carolina Panthers as well. I think this is where he goes. I think this gives another weapon for Justin Herbert. They already have Najee Harris. They got Mike Williams. They got Ladd, McConkley, who did fantastic for them this year. So you just add another weapon to that team. Harbaugh enjoys running the football. But he also wants to score some points. So this is the next step where I think Harbaugh is trying to think, how can I get this team, one, past the wild card, but also past the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's who you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, I think there's no question that Justin Herbert and the Chargers need to have more weapons on offense if they want to compete in that explosive AFC West. I love this idea for all the reasons you mentioned. Harbaugh's brand of football. He's a for sure prospect of a history of drafting Hall of Fame tight ends. I just don't know if Tyler Warren is going to last all the way to 13. Yeah. I think whether or not somebody sticks and picks him or if someone trades up and is aggressive to get him, I love the idea, but I think if the Chargers want to land him, they may need to give up something. So I'm all for it, and I love the idea, but I think it's going to be a hard sell for me to believe he's still going to be available at 13. But I love the aggressiveness. I love the creativity. But speaking of tight ends, we go on to the number 14 overall pick. It's back to me again. And with the Indianapolis Colts on the clock, same brain, Blaine, but instead I have them going the other tight end, Colston Loveland from Michigan, for the same reasons I just told you about Justin Herbert. I mean, Shane Steichen is an offensive guy. Whoever their quarterback is, whether it be Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones certainly needs more help. Alec Pierce looked like a pretty good deep threat. Michael Pittman Jr. is like an okay number 2. They need some more help in the tight end room. This makes a lot of sense for me. I think actually it's possible that if Tyler Warren does go, I could see Jim Harbaugh trading up for this guy, given the Michigan connection. So look out for that. But right now, I'm going to say that if he's available at 14, the Colts aren't going to pass on this guy.
No, they do need help whatsoever. If it's for Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, you need a stable tight. They need a stable tight end. Pierce was good last year for them. More weapons would definitely benefit for the development of Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones or whoever the quarterback's going to be in the future. So that will be a smart move. Shane Steichen knows how to use his tight ends. He had Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia when he was OC in Philadelphia, and he was able to do well with what he had in Indianapolis. But for me, I think they continue to stay on the offensive side of the ball, but to protect Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, they'll go Tyler Booker, guard, interior offensive line. They need to find a way to protect your quarterbacks. And the one thing, I mean, look, we're Eagles fans, so we're not back. But the one thing we know is the importance of protecting your quarterback. We know what an bad offensive line or a weak offensive line look like. We saw the good and we saw the bad, but it's important to protect your quarterback, especially when they're young. You don't want them to sustain injuries. Anthony Richardson, again, had an injury this year. The Colts can't have that happen again this year, or they're going to be looking at Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. And again, you throw him out there, and the same thing could happen if you just don't have the protection up front.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Again, I think it'll be an offensive side of the ball. I could see them going lineman, but I think you really need more wide receiver, or not wide receiver, more offensive weapons. So I have them going Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. Which brings us to number 15 overall with the Atlanta Falcons. I think we're in agreement of which side of the ball the Falcons must go to. They're going to approach defense. They had absolutely no pass rush last year, which is why I have them taking Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. He's kind of a do-it-all kind of guy. I think he's a plug-and-play person for Coach Raheem Morris over there, and I think he's one of the best defensive players left on the board.
Yeah, we have him going defense. Campbell drops this far. It's funny, we just have him going to the NFC South no matter what. So
yep. Correct.
But I have him going on the defensive back with Will Johnson, and you mentioned he's the second best corner in my opinion in this draft. I think Barron is the best, but you can go either way. But Will Johnson, I think, is just going to be the guy for the Falcons. Protect that secondary. You still have to deal with Mike Evans, Chris Olave. So that's going to be the most important thing, is making sure that you're not getting beat up top. Raheem Morris' specialty is defensive back. So this is where I think they'll land at.
All righty. And now coming up at number 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who they signed Josh Sweat in free agency. They tried to bolster their pass rush. I think they continue to do that while also improving their run game. I think they go with one of the next best defensive tackles on the board. I have them taking Derek Harmon out of Oregon. West Coast connection there. There's not too much to say about defensive tackles. They're not the sexiest players in the NFL. They're no wide receivers. They're no running backs or quarterbacks, but they are impactful. Every team needs a good one. And so I think Arizona takes a safe pick here and goes with one of the best defenders on the board. Now, go Blaine.
This is where, they need help on both sides of the line. Not a bad pick, but I definitely have another trade happening here.
Yes. So even though I have the Cardinals taking Derek Harmon with 16 overall, Blaine is shaking things up once again with another trade alert. Blaine, tell us about what you have happening here at number 16.
I have the Chicago Bears trading up now. So they're going to trade the pick that they got from the Steelers and probably a fourth or fifth or even a third round pick just to move up a couple spots so they can draft running back Omarion Hampton.
I love it. Tell me about why you think the Bears are going to trade up for a running back.
I think they want to. Last year, I mean, DeAndre Swift was good for them last year, but I think they just want stability now with Caleb Williams, with Roma Duze. This is an opportunity for them to really establish, hey, we're going to run the football and we're going to pass the football. Ben Johnson, as we saw in his time in Detroit, he he utilized his running backs. He had David Montgomery, and then he had what's his name? Forgetting his name already. Speed guy. 1 second.
You're
Um,
good. Oh,
Jameer Gibbs.
yes.
After,
Yes.
he was able to utilize them both in the backfield very effectively with having outside receivers in Jamison Williams and Amaron St. Brown. So this is the opportunity I think that he really wants to be able to balance the offense out, give Caleb Williams give him more help so that they're able to execute on offense because they want to become a high-powered offense. I think we're going to see a replication of what Detroit was in Chicago, but a little more faster because Caleb Williams can move.
Yeah, I agree. I think they like having the two-headed monster there, so I absolutely could see that. DeAndre Swift is on his last couple of years, so maybe you want to get some fresher legs in there to eventually take over. I don't know too much, frankly, about Omarion Hampton, so I'll defer to you on that. I obviously know Ashton Genty's the clear number one, so we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, it's kind of unheard of for them to trade up for a running back, but if they love him, I could definitely see it. Bears want to be aggressive, especially if they're able to, fortify their offensive line, get some weapons, and that's a huge win for the offseason for the Bears.
Exactly.
So.
And Hampton's been moving up in some of the mock drafts in North Carolina. He was very reliable at North Carolina, and even going into this year, I believe he was viewed as one of the top running backs that can be taken this year. So
nice, very nice. All right, so Blaine with another trade coming in at number 16. He is the Bears taking North Carolina running back Omarion Hampton, which now brings us to number 17, where the Cincinnati Bengals currently sit. And Cincinnati was abysmal on defense. Joe Burrow had a historic year, one of the best years of his career, and the Bengals failed to make a playoffs for the sole reason that their defense could not stop a nosebleed. They have to address it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This must be defense. And for that reason, I'm going to have the Cincinnati Bengals take the person who Blaine thinks is the best corner in the draft, Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Keep him in orange.
Keep him in orange. Yeah, Cincinnati still god awful defense. I don't know what happened to that defense, but it was awful. And Lou Armoretta was a good, solid defensive coach. I don't know. I just don't know if they just got tired of the scheme. But I have them going on the offensive line. I mean, on the defensive line. Sorry. Yeah, I have them going with Michael Williams, edge rusher. They really need to shore up their defensive line because there could be some losses happening in the future. So I think this is the time where take advantage, start building up that line again because it's one in the trenches. You could lose Trey Hendrickson soon, so you want to make sure that you have a stable backup plan so that if you do lose him and that you trade him, you have somebody that can you just plug right in.
All right, agree completely. Moving right along now to the 18th overall pick, where they have the Seattle Seahawks. They need a lot of help, but I have them taking offensive lineman Tyler Booker out of Alabama. They just signed Sam Darnold to be their new franchise quarterback. You want to continue to protect him. They have a really strong run game with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I think this makes a lot of sense. Get a ready-to-go guy for inside the line.
I think because with the loss of DK, with them trading DK to Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they try to re-up the wide receiver room a little bit and really bolster things up. And this is where I have them taking Tate McMillan.
Yeah.
Tate drops a little bit. This is where I think Seattle takes advantage. Pair him up with Cooper Kupp. Pair him up with Sam Darnold and with Jackson Smith Njigba. I can never pronounce his last name. But this is where I think now they do have quite a few receivers on their team already that could fill that supplemental role. But I think this is an opportunity for the Seahawks to really supplant their wide receiver room for the next couple of years.
All righty. Next in the 19th overall pick, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I have taking safety Nick Amanwari from South Carolina. The Bucs are one of the rare teams that don't have a ton of holes. They really are in win now, but putting him next to Winfield Jr., I think would be a really deadly duo. Some people have them falling a little bit farther, but I just think when you look at the board left, like one of the best defenders on the board, they need help with that secondary. They lost Carlton Davis, so I don't know. He can play linebacker, he can play nickel. I think this makes. I think I have the Bucs going safety here.
I have them going defense as well, but I have them going edge rusher. You mentioned there's really not many holes on the Buccaneers.
Yep.
I wonder if this could be an opportunity for them to trade back, but I think they just go edge rusher, Mike Green, just to really shore up the defensive line again. It's one in the trenches. They were back in the playoffs, came very close to beating the Washington Commanders. And I think that they look at it as in if we have just more pressure, add more pressure to the quarterback, we could be in the NFC Championship game. They were a couple of drives away from being in it 2 years ago. So they're a team that's always in the playoffs, always in the mix. You just need that one push that gets you over the edge.
Absolutely. At number 20, we have the Denver Broncos. Denver, one of the hot young teams from last year. They got their quarterback situation. They signed Evan Ingram in the offseason, but they still have a lot of more holes to fill. And for me, the biggest hole that I see them having is in that running back room. You had the Chicago Bears trading up for this guy, but for me, I have the Denver Broncos selecting Marion Hampton from North Carolina. Their running backs were okay last year. We saw what's the name of the guy who signed with the Cowboys? Their running back.
Give me 1 second.
Javonte Williams signed with Dallas. So he was their leading rusher last year. So he goes there. They no longer have him. This fills in that spot 1-for-1. And again, to continue to bolster that offense and as they compete in the heavy AFC West.
Yeah, Javonte Williams, they're going to need help in that running back room because it was just Javonte Williams and then McLaughlin. So
yeah,
I think they trade up. I think they go for tight end here. Yes, they have Evan Ingram, but with Sean Payton, how his mind thinks he really wants to be able to move the ball and throw it all over the field. So this is where I think they take Colson level.
Yep. I think that makes, a lot of sense to have him and Evan Ingram do 1-2, more weapons for Bo Nix here. We're at the point of the draft now where you're really probably just taking best player available based on your needs. So I think, Sean Payton's an offensive guy. So I think taking a guy like that who is probably one of the top 15 players in this draft, just depending on how you evaluate them, one of the surefire players to probably succeed, I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is where it's getting interesting again because Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock at number 21. And a lot of people have them taking Shedeur Sanders if he falls this far. Some people like Blaine have them being aggressive and trading up to get Shedeur. I have them sticking and picking. And for me, I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers will take a quarterback. But it's not the one you're thinking of. Jalen Milroe,
Wow.
Alabama, goes in the first round over Jackson Dart. I think he's a better fit for that offense than Jackson Dart would be. I think if Shedeur is available, they will take Shedeur first. But if they can't get him, I think the Steelers fill their quarterback hole in the first round of this draft. I do not think they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. I think they're coming out of this weekend with a starting quarterback one way or another. And I have the Steelers taking Jalen Milroe from Alabama with the 21st overall pick. Blaine, your thoughts?
I like it. I think that's who the Steelers, if they do not get Shedeur, that's who I think they'll go after, Jalen Milroe. I think Milroe has more of an upside compared to the other quarterbacks, compared to Jackson Dart. It's not a bad pick at all. I think though, if the Steelers do stick right here, I think they might try to trade back.
Okay.
I think that if they do stick here, they'll try to trade back a couple of picks, maybe. A team to look at that could jump up with them could be the Texans or the Rams, or even Detroit. So I think they might trade back a teeny bit just to see, because the board might fall their way, where they still be able to take Milrow.
Right. Well, you have a trade here for.
No. This will be Arizona's pick now, based off of
From your trade from earlier.
Yeah. So eventually it was the Steelers, then it became the Bears. Now it's the Cardinals.
Right.
I'm taking Kelvin Banks Jr.
There you go. Sure up that offensive
line. They got to. You can't have Kyler just running back there. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, they just drafted Paris Johnson a couple years ago, so continue to build there. Some people have them taking more offensive. Again, the Cardinals are one of those teams that need a bunch of stuff that could go in really any direction here. So, but you have them through trades. It's got Arizona Cardinals at 21 taking the offensive lineman Kelvin Banks Jr. We're back to me now, and with my pick at 22, I have the Chargers taking Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. They need wide receiver help. They need a lot of help, frankly. You had them had them trading up to get Tyler Warren. I don't know why I wanted to call him Hayden Hurst. I don't know why Hayden Hurst was on the brain. I think it's the hair. But either way, we're in agreement that Jim Harbaugh's got to go offensive weapons this year. He took linemen last year that worked out really well, but I have him taking Matthew Golden instead.
Yeah. For 22, I have the Dolphins taking Malachi Starks, safety. Sure up that secondary. We both have them going secondary picks. You had them going with Will Johnson. I got them just going with Malachi Starks to really shore up that safety position, that back end, which is important. You have a lot of speed. They struggle. Look, in Miami, they're fine. On the road, that's where you need that toughness to come out. So,
right. All righty. Malachi Starks, number 22 overall to the Dolphins, says Blaine. At 23 overall, we have the Green Bay Packers. I have them going Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall. Packers are historically a defensive drafting team. There's a lot of narrative out there about wanting the Packers to draft more wide receivers. I personally don't get that. I can understand that the wide receivers they have now, or they consider them a bunch of 2s and 3s. But of all the holes on the team, that doesn't feel like the one that you'd want to address here. And historically, as we've seen, this front office doesn't really do that anyway. They tend to take these kind of players who are, pass rushers, defensive side of the ball, built from the trenches. So I'll have them take my Green. Listen, Green to Green Bay. I'm always looking for a connection like that.
Yes.
Go for it.
Yeah, we're both in the same position where they go edge rusher. I just have them taking Shamar Stewart. Again, wide receiver, yes, they could use, but I think it's more of now. Sure enough, it's the defensive line. We saw how they just got beat it in the NFC wild card against the Eagles. So you got to be able to stop these running backs. They're already in a tough division as is, so you need to slow down. You need to slow down the quarterbacks and the running backs now. Yeah, you just have to. I mean, you're going up against the Lions, the Lions, the Bears, and I'm missing one team, and the Vikings. So you got to be able to slow down those offensive. I think because Green Bay runs a spread offense, they really don't need receivers, because their receivers it seems like the way that they use their receivers is useful, as you just don't know who they're going to next.
100%. Speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, they are the number 24 overall pick. And with the number 24 overall pick, I have him taking Gray Zabel, the offensive guard from North Dakota State, stay in the Great North. They got to protect J.J. McCarthy. They got to improve the run game. They lost some guys in free agency, so I have them taking the best lineman available.
I have them improving the defensive line. They're going Derek Harmon here. Again, it's kind of the same situation with the Packers, and it's going to be the same situation later on, I say, with the Lions. Because this division's so competitive, you need to have a good defense to really really slow these teams down, because this division could be won with 10 or 11 wins, and the rest of the division has 10 or 9 wins. So it's going to be these divisional games in the NFC North for the next couple of years. They're going to be a dogfight, and it's going to start with the defensive line going up against it's going to start in the trenches.
At number 25, we have the Houston Texans. I have the Houston Texans taking Shamar Stewart, as you have just had him go. Staying in Texas, continue to D'Amico Ryan's the defensive coach, defensive culture, continuing to build that out. I think they could always use more pass rushers. He's one of the best in the draft, so I have him going with Shamar Stewart at number 25. Blaine, at number 25, you have the Houston Texans taking who?
I got them going Emeka Egbuka. I think he falls here. I think they need wide receiver help because with opposite side of Nico Collins, we saw them straight for CJ GJ, but with Tank Dell now being out for the season after the gruesome injury, they're going to need some help on the offensive side. Yes, they do have Christian Kirk, but I think this is the situation where, we have CJ Stroud. We need to just take that next step to be able to compete with the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills.
Absolutely. At number 26, we have the Los Angeles Rams. And again, this is one where it could get a little crazy because I have the Los Angeles Rams taking quarterback Jackson Dart out of Mississippi. Matt Stafford's on his last legs, and they need to secure the future of that franchise. I have Sean McVay pulling the trigger here, trying to pull a Brett Favre and Rodgers situation, have Jackson sit behind Matt Stafford. I think that would be a great situation for him. He fits that kind of offense that Sean McVay is trying to run over there. So I will take the over on 2.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, Blaine, and I have Jackson Dart going to LA at number 26.
The Rams are going to be an interesting team to watch because if Shador falls, they could be a team that trades up. But just because of how the season ended, I think they go defense. They go Maxwell Harrison, cornerback, because they were, let's say, we got to be honest, they were probably 2 plays away from the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
They were 2 plays away, and if they were able to slow down, if they just had that defensive help, they probably couldn't have gotten there. So I think they try to shore up the defense here. They really try to make sure that they have the ability to create turnovers so that they can have Matthew Stafford the ball. But quarterback is something that I will keep an eye out for the Rams because it's very, very possible.
And Les Snead always likes to trade down too, so they very well could be trading out of the first and try and take him early in the second or what have you. That's kind of been their philosophy for a while.
I think from 25 on down, we could see a bunch of these teams try to trade down.
At number 27, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I have them taking Malachi Starks from Georgia. This is a classic Ravens pick. Pair him with Kyle Hamilton, and that's a hell of a secondary. He's a tough-nosed guy. And this just feels like a classic Baltimore pick for me.
That got me scared for the next that I have going off the board. I do have them going with defense because it's Baltimore. And Walter Nolan, defensive tackle. Baltimore knows how to draft defensive players.
Yeah.
I figure out whoever defensive player they draft is going to be a Pro Bowler this year or next year.
100%.
But if they get Malachi Starks, my goodness, the pair back there with Kyle Hamilton,
it's a hell of a duo.
That secondary is going to be crazy.
My only concern would be is Malachi Starks going to fall that far because he has been one of the bigger names on the defensive side of the ball that has been getting a lot of coverage. Safety, you can make the argument he's number 1 or number 2. So I could see him going even earlier. I could see the Ravens potentially trading up to go get him. But if he's there at 27, they are taking him. I think he's too good to pass up.
Would that be like the new Legion of Boom? Because you have Nate Wiggins, Starks, Humphrey, Hamilton.
It would be a force that nobody in the AFC North wants to go against. So hopefully as an Eagles fan, it doesn't happen. But I think if the Ravens are smart, they're going to find a way to make it happen. Sticking with the defensive side of the ball, we are now on to the number 28th overall pick. I have the Detroit Lions selecting defensive tackle Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Another Michigan man. After Aiden Hutchinson went down, they proved that they needed more pass rush, more help stopping the run. You got to fill that hole here. He stays home, stays in the home state, and I have the line taking Kenneth Grant.
Same with on the line. I got him on Donovan Izureticu, edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just to repeat what you just said. When Hutchinson went down, boy, did the Lions defense go down. And I saw something in the playoffs that I did not expect to see. They need to really repair that defense. They lost Aaron Glenn, so they really need to repair that defense so that they can continue to be contenders, because you can't have teams scoring, dropping 45 on you, and you're scoring 38 to 40 points. So.
Yep, definitely need some help there. We're winding down here for the last couple picks. At number 29, I have the Washington Commanders selecting LSU tight end Mason Taylor. Zach Ertz is probably in the last year of his career, although he was very productive for them last year. I think this is a great opportunity in a very deep tight end draft for the Commanders to come in and get someone who can not just sit behind Zach Ertz, but learn how to be a pro, run a two tight end offense for this last year, kind of come in, be a big-bodied guy, and take over for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, not a bad pick. The Commanders are going to be looking for more weapons for Jaden Daniels. But I think in this situation, they just go edge rusher, James Pierce Jr., really to create pressure. I go back to the NFC Championship game, and I also just go back to the divisional game. And while Jared Goff did have 4 interceptions, they still put up over 30 points. So you just want to create that system where you are pressuring the quarterback, and you're gonna have to deal with Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, whoever the Giants have under center. So you just want to be able to create that pressure for teams.
On the 30th overall pick with the Buffalo Bills, I have them taking Walter Nolan Jr., defensive tackle out of Mississippi. Again, run stopping, best player available type thing. Bills, when you're picking this far down in the draft, you're obviously a team that doesn't have a ton of holes. So again, just taking best player available. He's rising up a lot of draft boards that I've seen. So I think if he's there, the Bills will take him.
I have the Bills staying on defense. I got them going Trey Amos.
Yes, cornerback.
Yeah, their secondary was a bit of a struggle. And again, the Bills are just looking for that one piece that can get them past the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it. They're looking for that piece, and if you can shut down the Chiefs wide receivers, this is the opportunity for you to take advantage.
Well, speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, we are on to the last 2 picks of our first round. We have the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. I have them taking Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas. Chiefs need a lot of help, specifically on the offensive line, left tackle. They lost a couple of guys in free agency like Joe Thuney. He was a guard, but they signed a guy from San Francisco who wasn't even a proven starter. So the more depth on the offensive line, the better for the Chiefs. I do think they will get back to the Super Bowl this year one way or another, but that starts by shoring up the offensive line. So I don't know if he'll make it all the way to 31. I think you had him going significantly higher. So again, possible somebody trades up and gets him, or maybe some team just likes him more than they like Armand Mendu. He could be the first tackle off the board, or second. I think Will Johnson's going to be the first one off the board. But yeah, if he's here, I think the Chiefs have to go off the offensive line regardless of who's available.
We're in agreement. Kansas City Chiefs, that offensive line was, we watched it in the Super Bowl. What happened to that line? I got them going Gray Zabel. I know you have them going up a little higher, but this is where I have him going to really shore up that interior, protect Patrick Mahomes. You got Isaiah Pacheco back there. So they need the line. They need the line because that's what caused them 2 Super Bowls now.
Yeah.
It cost them
2 Super Bowls. And finally, Blaine, it all comes down to our Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, with the 32nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Philadelphia Eagles close out the first round by selecting Michael Williams, another Georgia Bulldog. The Eagles love their Bulldogs. It's got them a Super Bowl ring. I think keep the trend continuing here. I know a lot of people were trying to find a way for them to go get a Myles Garrett or even a Micah Parsons in this offseason. I think they continue to build up their pass rush here. I could see them going on many other directions, whether it's, a lineman to fill Mekhi Becton, a D tackle to fill Melton Williams, a safety to fill CJGJ. But I think at the 32nd overall pick, you got to take what's the best available. And according to my board, Michael Williams would be the best available for the Eagles.
I got them going safety, Nick Imorori, to really. I believe the Eagles are going to eventually sign a safety. I think it's going to be Justin Simmons eventually, but I just have them going safety here to create that early secondary that they had in the early 2000s. This way, you'll have a secondary of Mitchell, Cooper, Blankenship, and then Nick Imori. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles trade up.
Yeah.
My philosophy is I think they should take a wide receiver.
Interesting. Why do you think they should take a wide receiver?
So I think they should take a wide receiver, not to trade AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown's going to stay here, but this will shore up their offense for the next 5 years. You don't have to worry about anything on offense if they get and it's also about the wide receiver depth. I do think that Dotson was good. Good, but I think if you get another wide receiver that can play all over the field in the slot or on the outside, that would be very beneficial. And I'm looking out for them, especially if Emeka Egbuka falls.
Absolutely. All righty. So that does it. That wraps up our 2025 NFL mock draft. Blaine, I want to thank you so much for obviously being here. It was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun. Any final thoughts before Thursday?
It's going to be a crazy draft. I think we're going to see a lot of draft. I think we're going to see a lot of trades. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that shock us. There's going to be a lot of shocking moves. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of trades specifically in that back half. On Thursday night, people trading up to get quarterbacks. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement. So I'm excited. Again, like I said at the top of this, it's one of my favorite times of the year. So Blaine, again, thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure we will all be talking about it after Thursday night when we find out where all these people go.
For sure.
So, all right, take care, everybody, and we will see you next time, and happy drafting.